Sam here, and I'll be doing the premium video for Friday, July 18th, 2025. So, yet another week is in the books, and if you're someone that's focused on the indexes, it's been a very exciting trading range here for quite a few days, which we're still in. And looking at the SPY here, I don't really see much changes from what we talked about last week. So what we talked about last week was just that from the larger picture, everything was still bullish. You can see that on your screen there. The label on the daily chart is still max bull. The label on the weekly chart is strong bull. So both of those are very passable. From the inside out, it's still bullish. The 4 hour is bullish. The hourly is neutral, but of course would skew bullish because of the larger time frames. And the 30-minute is also neutral. So not really anything here has changed. Wish I had something new to bring you, but that's what happens when you have kind of, tiny ranges here that don't really do anything intraday, especially today. Today was probably one of the more boring days of the year, if I have to say so. So not really seeing too much here. So let's go ahead and just move on, because I don't want to just spin our wheels there looking at more of the same. So if we look at the Qs here, new all-time high in the Qs as of today. Remains obviously very bullish. Same situation as SPY, bullish from the inside out. The only thing I would call your attention to is, and we'll see if this is worth anything, because in this market, resistance is futile. But if you measure this move, right, from high to low, it'll give you some Fibonacci targets to the upside. 1272, 1618, and then there's a 200%. So the Qs did come up here as of today, and I do want to go back and just cover this one more time. This is a very large pullback, right? And so to measure it up to the magenta line, which I'm about to show you, is a large measured move. So that level is right here. It's 263.16. High of the day, 264. Is that right? I'm showing 563.32. What's the high of the day? 64.73. Okay, so I'm getting two different values here, but basically, if we zoom in here, it hit that 200% retracement, or 200% retracement target. Aside from that, I don't really see anything wrong with it. Everything looks pretty bullish here. You have the hourly, which is bullish, the 4 hour, which is bullish, the 30-minute, which is neutral to up with a squeeze. You have a max bull daily and a strong bull weekly. So not really seeing anything new here either, just more of the same, just markets, just truly remarkable stuff in terms of the Qs grinding higher. So let's go ahead and move on. Nothing new to see there, unfortunately. So you could theoretically just watch last week's video and get the exact same point of view. If we look here at the IWM, again, another inside week, so nothing to cover here, nothing to update, nothing to change. This one is not as strong as the rest of the market, so personally, I think if you're looking to trade IWM, maybe do it through some of the short squeeze stocks. Things like IonQ, I think are good plays on this because they benefit from the IWM. But again, you can see here that you just have another inside week followed by last week's inside week. So there's really not any new information here that's being provided by the market, in my opinion, in terms of, changing what we talked about last week. So in a lot of ways, I'm kind of just repeating what I said last week, which is fine, right? Which is fine. We'll go into next week. There will be, I think Google and Tesla have earnings, and maybe one more. And we'll see if that starts to, maybe jostle the market awake. But as it sits now, the market is very content, just grinding up a little bit every day. One thing that we noticed last week was that the dollar was trying to put in a bottom potentially and that's still in the process. I don't see any major changes there whatsoever. I think that if this starts to rise slowly, it doesn't affect what we do. If it drops slowly, it doesn't affect what we do. It will only affect what we do is if it pops to the upside very quickly. But I don't really have any indications of that at the moment, but it is a pattern that I'm looking at for potential bottoming structure. Let's go to HYG, which is going to be the junk bonds. We look at junk bonds to understand risk appetite, risk sentiment. And as long as this is above 80, then this is fine. It actually could go all the way down to 79 and be fine. But as it sits here above 80, you can see on the labels yourself, I don't see any major issues. It's a strong bull on the daily and a max bull on the weekly. So risk appetite here in the form of the credit market, credit spreads, still very strong. And this will be one of the first things that I would look at for any kind of major issues to develop, but I do not see anything there at the moment. Let's check out Bitcoin. We don't always look at Bitcoin, but my eyes are tired of looking at things that don't move. So let's go to something that has moved. So Bitcoin here did what it was supposed to do, which is fire long out of its major long squeeze there. You can see all of these warning signals telling you to get long. So at this point, what's the next move? And I don't really have a setup here on Bitcoin any longer. We'll see how it trades over the weekend, but the setup that I had that we were trading in the room, and I was trading a little bit of Ethereum on my own, was to get long right there for the move up, and now you've gotten it. And also it's been really kind of in the news, really hot lately. I think everyone knows about Bitcoin at this point, which always makes me a little bit nervous when the Uber driver tells you to buy Bitcoin. If we look at Ethereum here, Ethereum is actually a little bit more exciting. For those of you that understand kind of how this stuff works, there's a ratio you can follow. It's the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. And as that ratio starts to climb, it tells you that you should be rotating from Bitcoin into Ethereum and other altcoins. And I think we're starting to see a big push into that. Also, Ethereum and basically all the other altcoins, they have a lot of short interest. And when they have a lot of short interest, you get moves like this. So you had a lot of trade in this box. And then, of course, the short squeeze. At this point, Ethereum is a buy. I just would need a better price for it. So I wouldn't be able to buy Ethereum personally until it got to about 32.80, which is a Fireline pullback target on Ethereum. But it looks great, and this is actually the pattern that could potentially break it out. So if that is the case, then pullback should be bought in Ethereum, and I would be looking for a retest up here right around $4,000. So that all looks very serviceable. What else? Let's look at VIX. Look at all the volatility products. So volatility has been absolutely destroyed. Earlier when we were looking at the SPY, you saw all of those very tiny range candles, including today. And when you have that, it just kills volatility. And now the VIX here has gone back into a squeeze. And it has this really long consolidation down here right around 17 to 16. But it doesn't yet have any kind of major signal to trigger. So the signal that I'm looking for is if it were to have a daily close back above 18. I think that could trigger VIX to the long side. As it sits right now, it's very, very coiled. It's like a box of bees, but the lid is still on the box. So while it's dangerous, the bees are comfortably trapped inside the box for now. So we'll see if that persists going into next week. Let's look at all the vol products because, again, the indexes aren't on their own giving too much away. Well, what they're giving away is just keep buying everything and never stop. But maybe there will be a surprise or something. Surely. The UVIXI here, not really saying much. Let's go ahead and move forward. And then lastly, let's look at the VVIX, which is the VIX of the VIX. So this is going to move before volatility moves. Think of acceleration before velocity. So here on the VVIX, not really a whole lot here either. Not really a whole lot. So putting all the pieces together, I think the strongest piece on the board right now is probably HYG, which is the junk bonds. And of course, if we just focus on the larger picture here, on SPY, this is a very bullish weekly and daily. The intraday is not bad either. The intraday is just neutral. There's some patterns on there that are a little funky, but overall, the SPY hourly and the SPY 30-minute, which are the internal structures of the larger time frame, they all look fine. So I don't see any major issues there. And of course, it's not really giving too much away. This is basically just me kind of remixing last week's video because nothing changed, right? You saw it for yourself. It's a bunch of inside candles. Although the NASDAQ and the S&P did make new all-time highs this week, basically today, but they are still inside ranges. So HYG is probably the best clue for this, that most things are still fine here. And I would imagine that that will remain the case until something changes there on HYG. So real quick, I have a list here of stocks here that I think are in pretty decent shape. If you get a bullish week next week, I think these are worth your time. The first one is going to be A-Lab. So this one has a very nice pattern, high score, great consolidation. If this is a true consolidation, which it looks to be, then you can see it's trading in a box there. You have this kind of big impulsive move to the upside. So if we trace it in on the weekly chart, kind of looks like a flag pattern, and that would at least target this open gap here right around 120 on A-Lab. Nice beautiful squeeze here, nothing but arrows for days and a strong score. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. The other one's going to be IonQ. So I'm feeling a little bit left out on IonQ. I got out of mine yesterday, naturally. But again, very strong pattern here. And this one actually could be up, well over 50 next week if you have a decent market behind it. You have a little bit of a cup and handle here, right? Whatever you want to call that, it doesn't really matter. But what's cool about it is it's fractal because you have the cup, you have the handle, and then inside of that, inside the handle itself, you have another kind of cup and handle thing going on here. So, not to get too abstract with you, but just some things that I think are neat. Strong bull chart. There's a squeeze, there's a 2-day squeeze, and a very clean level to target at 50. So continue to like that one. Another one is Oklo. So we had some Oklo earlier this week, got out way too soon, I think. There actually still a 2-day squeeze on this, so this should be touching the highs pretty soon, I would imagine. So max bull chart, perfect situation there. The other one is App. This one's not as clean as the rest, so maybe put this one in on your bench. But keep it on the team, but don't make it a starter. So App here, kind of the same idea, right? I'm looking for kind of these bowl-shaped reversal patterns with squeezes and arrows, and App has that. So I like the way that looks, and I think that's it. I mean, you can go down the list in terms of like IonQ, that the rest of them would also apply. So, another one is something like QUBT, right? And you can see here why, this one's similar. I wouldn't go with this one personally. I would go with IonQ. But basically, when I show you IonQ, that means that the entire quantum computing sector is doing well. So you can go down the list there yourself. With Oklo, it would be the nuclear stocks. So SMR, OKLO, URA, NNE, things like that. And really where you're seeing a lot of dynamism is in the short squeeze stocks, right? All of the highly shorted stocks are seeing huge moves, while the indexes themselves, like we looked at the beginning of the video, are basically doing nothing. Or or at least nothing quickly. So we'll see how that develops. Again, a lot of this is basically just a repeat from last week, because in this video what we focus on is going to be the indexes as well as the peripheral parts of the market. And the indexes put in basically, I don't want to call them inside weeks, but they kind of were. And then nothing else really moved. There was a lot of movement under the surface in a lot of these, let's call them honey badger stocks. But the indexes themselves look like they're waiting for something, and we'll see next week if that something comes to pass. Alright guys, well that is my time, so hope you enjoyed the remix. If you caught last week's video, you probably could have saved yourself 15 minutes and just watch that one, but I just wanted to come to you guys here on Friday, as we usually do, cover the market, tell you what I'm looking at. Going into next week, I actually am going into next week a little bit short on SPX and IWM. We'll see if I'm wrong on that. I'll try to keep a tight stop on that trade if I'm wrong, but I was seeing some signals that were enough to get me to at least start getting short today, and then I have a position in gold betting that it goes sideways. So we'll see how that develops. And aside from that, thanks as always for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Cheers.